a story that really impacts future parents. If you had a choice here, would you rather have a boy or a girl, and would you choose? Dr. Maher Abdallah runs a clinic in Orange County. He believes you should have the right to choose your baby's sex, and he's here with us in studio tonight. And Doctor, first of all, you run a fertility clinic, correct?
That's correct, yes.
How difficult is it to select boy or girl here?
It's actually very simple. It involves in vitro fertilization, but the accuracy is almost 99%. So we can choose a boy or a girl, and we're accurate 99% of the time.
Do you get a lot of parents asking that question?
It's actually very common, yes.
And a lot of people wonder if you should be messing with the natural selection here. I mean, is it something you should be doing?
I think we should. I mean, I think it's a personal choice. We're not really, doing much other than separating the male and the female embryos, and then transferring the choice of the parents.
Do you do it strictly for couples who have fertility issues, or do you do it really for everyone?
We do it for everyone. I mean, the typical patient has infertility, and that's why we perform IVF, or in vitro fertilization, to help them conceive. Now, we get people also that are doing it for gender selection, for, family balancing, where, they may have 4 boys and now they want a girl, or they have 4 girls and they want a boy. And we have a large international crowd that flies in just for that. Is it
something that you see much more of these days? I mean, I don't want to ask if it's common, because it can't be that common, is it?
It's not, very common, but we do it, weekly. It's costly, so not everybody can afford it, but it's becoming a very common procedure, and we're perfecting it now, in that we have very high pregnancy rates. A few years back, the technology was available, but our pregnancy rates were not as good as they are now. For people who are fertile, who want to do in vitro fertilization, not only is it 99% accurate, but most patients, walk away with a baby on first attempt.
You mentioned the cost here. What is the cost on something like this?
It's in the range of about $10,000.
And how successful?
It depends on the age of the...
If you look at the odds, you got a 50-50 shot of being right here.
Right. It depends on the age of the patient. In a young patient with, who's not infertile, the pregnancy rate is extremely high. Whereas in, infertility patients who are struggling to conceive, then it's lower.
What are the reasons that you hear from people when they come to see you? And do you run any sort of psychological tests or anything like that?
We don't really run psychological tests, but we screen for them ourselves, and that, if they need to have a good argument, even if they come in and they give a sexist reason, I would not accept them.
And your typical patient? I mean, is there such a thing?
Well, the typical patient is, a middle class to high class, patient who has a few children of the same sex, who desires the opposite sex.
Do you get repeat customers?
Repeats, I haven't had many. So usually the average patient would have, like the last one had 4 girls, and they wanted a boy. Well, they ended up with 2. And before that, a patient had a boy and wanted a girl. She ended up with 2 girls. Because we transfer 2 embryos, and 20% of the time it ends up being twins.
Do you ever worry that it might throw off the balance of nature here? I mean, if more and more people are doing something like that?
Well, the ratio that we get of male to female is about the same. So we're not really changing the male to female sex ratio. So we get the same requests for male as female children.
Does that surprise you at all?
No, it really doesn't. I mean, I think the average patient doesn't even think of sexist reasons. They just, have boys and,
they want
a girl.
And
yeah,
vice versa.
It's usually for that reason, yeah.
Where is fertility going after this?
I think the new technology focuses on screening the embryos before transfer for chromosomal abnormalities. So specifically excluding trisomies like trisomy 21, Down syndrome, 18. And we're also screening for genetic diseases.
When someone comes to you with fertility issues, how successful is it now compared to, let's say, 10 or 20 years ago?
In patients younger than 35, we're averaging, really over 60%, whereas not too long ago it was 32%. So, we're going, in the right direction, and now with being able to test the embryos genetically and transferring normal embryos, you have less of a chance at a miscarriage and at no pregnancy.
And this whole idea of selection, gender selection here, how long has that been something that you've worked on?
Well, I mean, I worked on it for the past 6 years, but we began to perfect it really not too long ago, within the past 10 years.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thank you very much.
I know it's a long drive up from Orange County on a Friday afternoon.
Yes, it is. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.